Sign the deed and we're done, the attorney said, pushing a single folder toward me. 27 million on the other side of a steel door, 2 keys on the table like choices. I didn't reach for the pen. Vault access log, please. The manager returned with a thick book of dates and names. One entry tugged at me the hour the way the ink shone. I closed the cover. We'll proceed by the book, I said. All of it. They booked a family conference under the bank fluorescent hum. No windows, a door with a wheel you have to turn like a ship. 2 keys on the steel table waited in a velvet tray, the bank's key and ours. A leather folder took the place where my hands wanted to rest. $27 million in bonds lived for the moment in a metal drawer behind that door. Her attorney sat beside my stepmother. Across from them, the bank manager and compliance watched the door. My stepmother, my brother, and my step-uncle, the man who prefers to be the temperature in every room, leaning in his silver cufflink, flashing whenever he tapped his watch. Let's make today about peace, my stepmother said. She wore pearls the way people wear a verdict. The lawyer set the folder between us and opened it just enough to breathe. Deed of gift, he said. It reflects what your father intended. Streamlines everything. You sign a mutual release, we all avoid ugliness. I looked at the 2 keys. The bank manager had set them down with the respect people give religious objects or bombs. He stayed near the door with the vault attendant, both of them pretending to be furniture. What exactly is being gifted, I asked. Bearer bonds primarily, the lawyer said. Plus coin, a few certificates, odds and ends. He smiled like a museum brochure. Our side has a draft inventory for you to initial. My step-uncle slid a pen toward me with 2 fingers. Everyone's time matters, he murmured, tapping his watch again. Bank closes at 5. The wheel on the vault door clicked in the silence metal, thinking about metal. The fluorescent hum pressed against my ribs. I set the pen on the folder and let it stare back at me. My father loved order date stamps, the way numbers could behave when you held them to a page. He taught me the difference between noise and proof. If it isn't written where it should be, he said once, it doesn't exist where it matters. Before I sign anything, I said I'd like to see the access ledger for the safe deposit box. The bank manager stepped forward, grateful to be asked for something that smelled like procedure. He came back with a wide-bound book that looked like a dictionary for a language of dates. He opened to our box number. Columns: date, time, signature, authority, a thin green stamp for verified. He turned the book toward me. My stepmother kept her eyes on my face. My brother watched my hands. My step-uncle breathed through his nose the way men do when they're timing themselves. The entries were neat. A month before my father died, his signature, the bank's key, our key, a clean little green stamp. 2 weeks before, same. Then there it was, 2 days after his death, a new line. Date neatly written. Time 10. 12 a.m. Signature, my step-uncle's name. Authority, POA. In the margin, someone had pressed the green stamp too hard. It bled a little at the edges like a bruise. I touched the page with 1 finger. Power of attorney ends at death, I said softly. Not to her attorney or to my stepmother, but to the book. My father wasn't alive at 10:12 a.m. on this date. No one is implying otherwise, the lawyer said. His smile had stopped moving. Banks sometimes allow access for inventory. The manager cleared his throat. We require court letters or continued access authorization on file, he said, choosing each word like a step on ice. A POA would not suffice after notice of death. If the POA was used, it was a mistake. My step-uncle drummed the table with a single knuckle. Clerical. You know how clerical things are. Clerical things usually don't sign their names, I said. Everyone, my stepmother said, arranging her pearls as if they were arguments. Let's keep this constructive. It is constructive, I said. We're constructing a timeline. I turned another page. The ledger was a life in lines. A week later, another entry in the same hand, this time, blank in the authority column, and stamped verified, as if the stamp could speak for a law that didn't. The door wheel in the corner clicked again. Someone down the corridor, coming or going. a reminder that other people had ordinary days. I looked up at the bank manager. "Would you call your compliance desk," I asked, "and ask for your written policy on post-death access and the status of any recorded authorizations on this box?" He glanced at the lawyer, then at me. "It is a small luxury to be asked for something you can answer." He nodded and stepped into the hall with his radio. The vault attendant pretended to study a laminated poster about prohibited items. My step-uncle leaned closer. "No need to dramatize," he said. "Your father wanted simplicity. We're giving you a graceful exit. Sign the gift, sign the release, walk away rich and unbothered. What you're offering is an exit," I said. "Grace is something else." The manager returned with a printout, and a woman in a gray suit, with the expression of someone who lives inside rulebooks and likes the weather there. "Compliance," the manager said by way of a name. She glanced at the ledger, then at the death certificate in our file. "POA ends at death," she said. "Any access by a non-renter afterward requires letters testamentary, a court order, or a bank-recognized authorization on file. We have no such authorization recorded here." The lawyer cleared his throat. "We're all here to fix things," he said smoothly. "The deed of gift accomplishes that. Gifts have to be delivered while the donor is alive," I said. "Otherwise, we're just writing wishes on paper." He spread his hands. "Delivery is a metaphysical concept with bearer bonds." "No," I said. "It's a metal drawer with a number. Reveal 1 was a small thing, ink and timing, but small things ruin large boats." The ledger had put a hairline through their keel. You could hear it in the way my step-uncle's watch sounded louder when he tapped it. "Let's open the box," my brother said suddenly, as if the words could change the rules. "Let's count. She'll see." "Of course," I said. "And one more thing before we do. My father liked redundancies the way pilots like 2 wings. He liked beneficiary cards, the kind that live at the bank, and mean that when you die, money moves without arguing. He had told me once over coffee, people fight about wills. They don't fight about where a note already says to send the check. I want the safekeeping file for this box," I said to compliance. "The card with any beneficiary or POD instructions associated with the envelope in the box." The lawyer blinked. "Safekeeping file. Some boxes maintain a cross-reference," compliance said carefully. "If a customer uses the box to store bank instruments held in custodial safekeeping, we keep the beneficiary instruction with the file. Not every box has one." "This one does," I said. She left and returned with a thin manila folder. The green stamp landed on the checkout line custody file, like a gavel in miniature. Inside a single sheet with my father's crooked patient signature and the language of banks when they mean to be merciful to the living. "Payable on death beneficiary, my name. Account reference, a safekeeping envelope number. Release instruction upon presentation of a death certificate, deliver contents to named beneficiary." The air in the room changed shape. It didn't get colder. It got organized. My stepmother's lips pressed into careful geometry. The lawyer's smile traveled a few inches, and then remembered where it had to stop. My step-uncle tapped his watch once and then remembered not to. "POD operates outside probate," compliance said like she was reading the day's weather. "The envelope contents are not subject to the will. Upon verified death, we deliver to the named beneficiary. And the will's codicil," the lawyer asked, voice upstream. "POD controls bank delivery," she said. "A will can't redirect it." Reveal 2 didn't shout. It printed itself in bank font with a line for a name you can't erase with a speech. The wheel on the vault door clicked again in the distance, someone else's ordinary day continuing. I took the pen my step-uncle had rolled at me earlier and centered it on the folder tip toward him, like a good-natured accusation. "Here's what we should write today," I said. "Not a gift. A memorandum." The lawyer recovered himself. "We're listening." "First," I said, holding up one finger, "you withdraw any attempt to rely on a deed of gift. No admissions. Just a statement that you have reviewed the bank's records and will not propound any document contrary to the original instruments. Second, I said anything removed after my father's death using POA or without valid authority returns to the bank to be inventoried, and if it belongs in the POD envelope to be placed there. You'll get a receipt. If something was sold, The proceeds come back. My brother made a sound like a chair leg on tile. The lawyer put a hand near his sleeve without touching it. Third, I said my stepmother steps down from the board of the family foundation for 2 years. Not forever. Long enough for an independent fiduciary to confirm what's charitable and what's a spa weekend spelled wrong. My stepmother's pearls failed to nod. Fourth, I said we don't malign each other at church. That last part made my brother snort before he caught it. He looked at the ceiling like it might hand him a different life. Why should we agree, my step-uncle asked, finally using his voice like a blade, when the bank will hand you the envelope anyway? Because you like exits with carpeting, I said. This way no one trips. Compliance coughed into a knuckle. We can open the box now, she said, practical. We'll need both keys and the beneficiary's signature for the POD envelope release. The rest can be sorted upstairs. The manager lifted the bank key. I picked up ours. The vault wheel accepted its responsibilities. Metal turned. Air shifted. The door moved with a patience so heavy it felt like kindness. Inside, the attendant guided us to the drawer. We used both keys. He set the box on a counter in a side room with a little curtain like a stage. He withdrew. Compliance stayed. I signed where the form asked the way you sign for a parcel and get a life. The envelope was heavier than paper and lighter than trouble. The list inside matched the instruction on the POD card. The bonds were still bonds, not rumors. Numbers behave when you keep them in the right habitat. When we came back out, the lawyer was talking to my stepmother in a tone that meant later. My brother had both hands in his pockets, holding on to his fists. My step-uncle had discovered the vault's rule sheet and was studying it so he wouldn't have to look at me. Memorandum? The lawyer said briskly. Short, no admissions. Numbers and dates, I said, not adjectives. We signed. The pen behaved. The green stamp landed on the bank's copy with a little sound that satisfied something in my bones. On the way out, my stepmother closed her clutch with a click, like a door you lock while someone's still in the hall. You always liked being clever, she said. My father liked being careful, I said, but thank you. My step-uncle checked his watch one last time. Bank closes at 5, he said pointlessly. Good news, I said. So do I. We surfaced into daylight like divers who chose the right rope. Outside, the city remembered it was summer. The sound of traffic felt like air learning how to be useful. I texted my aunt because she checks in whether or not there's victory. Thanksgiving at my place this year, I wrote. Noon. On time. If anyone's late, they can be on time next year. She sent back a heart, and then because she doesn't waste a chance to be herself, a note, I'm bringing the rolls. Don't argue. At home, I slid the bank's envelope and the memorandum into the fireproof bag, where I keep passports and my father's letters. The zipper sounded like a page ending. I sat at the kitchen table and listened for a moment to nothing mechanical. My father taught me to respect stamp dates the way ink can hold a door. He taught me that people will tell you their truth with their watches and their signatures. Today, a book with a green stamp said the quiet part plainly. Today, a card with my name on it moved money without a speech. Today, proof did what shouting never could. I wrote the only invitation I had to write. Thanksgiving. Noon. Come on time. Or don't come at all.